Hey, what's up guys, it's Nick2. Now that I've spent a couple days in T15 maps, kind of just blasting, I've changed a little bit about the build, and I kind of just wanted to talk about some of that stuff, go over my thought process in relation to the changes, and also just about the build in general and a lot of different options that you have. And I kind of just wanted an outlet to yap about the build because I am pretty passionate about that sort of thing, and I just wanted to get my thoughts out there. This is not an in-depth build video. If you want to know more about the build, I will do like a very quick overview, but I would just watch some of my previous videos, or I would just be on the lookout for an in-depth guide, which I will post soon. But I'm not comfortable posting a fully in-depth guide yet because there's still some stuff up in the air in relation to the build and what I think is best and what I want to recommend to a large audience of people, so that you guys have, success. I'm not 100% certain on how I think the build should be set up, but I've discovered some things, swapped some things around, and made the build overall better. So figured I'd just make a quick video to update you guys. And also, there's something I found that, well, I don't know if I found it. I mean, I guess I did find it. It's not like anything crazy, but if you want to get like pretty much upwards of 10,000 energy shield while still using Eldritch battery, I'll go over a quick little way to do that, which I thought was pretty cool. But yeah, I kind of just want to talk about the build, honestly. I don't have a lot of friends that play this game, and unfortunately I can't stream it because my PC just explodes. I have a good PC. I have a 3080 and a 5900X. At least I think that's pretty good. But on death explosions plus sparks, I literally get to like 30 FPS in breaches. It's kind of unplayable. It's making the game like genuinely not fun for me. So if you have any recommendations, I'm all ears. Please leave it down in the comments, and I will give you a big kiss. Everything will be timestamped, so if you're interested in just like a very certain niche topic that I'm probably going to talk about, feel free to just look. But otherwise, you can just copy paste what I'm using if you want, if you're following along with the build, and you can see that like I'm doing some pretty decent damage without any crazy gear, and I'm really looking forward to upgrading the build. T15 maps have been super brain dead, and I've kind of just been blasting, and I'm looking forward to blast some more. But without further ado, let's get into it. As a very brief overview of the build, Spark does big damn. It scales very nice off of cast speed, projectile speed, and duration. We make it do more damage with controlled destruction, and inspiration is almost mandatory because it is extremely expensive. If you don't have a 6th length, the last thing I would use is persistence, otherwise just take that off. The cost of Spark is very high, and that is because we're using Archmage, which increases our damage done based on how much mana we have total. So we scale our maximum mana into the moon. As a result of having nearly 4,000 mana, this is well over a 300% damage increase. You can see if I click it off, my Spark goes from 6,000 to 22,000. So that's almost a 4x on that. So Archmage is pretty insane. We use Orb of Storms for lightning exposure on elites and bosses, so we just do more damage, and Mana Tempest makes us do even more damage. We scale our mana as much as possible, which is why, so that we can scale our Archmage, which is why we use Eldritch Battery. This converts all of our energy shield to mana, so getting base energy shield on our gear is one of the best ways to scale our damage, but we retain our energy shield because we're using Everlasting Gaze, where a percentage of our mana still is going to give us energy shield. I keep getting comments saying that this build is going to die when this bug gets fixed, and I am bug abusing. I don't know if this is a bug or not. I haven't played PoE 1, so I don't know if there's a precedent set for energy shield conversion and how it is supposed to work. I have no idea, but I will say that this build is not even remotely close to dead if this doesn't work, and I'll just demonstrate why. So if you take Eldritch Battery off, first of all, you double your energy shield just straight up, so your survivability goes through the roof. I'm already running around with just 4k energy shield, and I'm perfectly fine. So what you could do is just reinvest some of these maximum energy shield nodes, or reinvest some of your gearing decisions to go for more damage. And I lost, almost 1,700 mana. Sure, I lost, a pretty good bit of my Spark DPS. It went from 22,000 to 14,000. So that's like a 30% reduction or so, but I'm already annihilating mobs in maps, and all I would do is simply just use Mana Tempest more. So the rhetoric that that Everlasting Gaze, if this gets nerfed or whatever, is going to delete the build is hilarious to me. You could also just not use this and go for an amulet that gives you like spell skills, etc., to literally just make up for the fact that you lost the damage from the flat mana of Archmage. And if you don't have this, you don't need it. You could just play without Eldritch Battery. My cat is going crazy. That is the very brief overview of the build. Now I'm just going to talk about random stuff that I've changed recently, and also just my thought process about random things. Currently, I'm not using Mind Over Matter anymore, so figure I'll just talk about this real quick. One of the main things that I've changed in general is I just tried to go for as much damage as humanly possible and lose a lot of survivability just to see how it would feel. And it's felt fine in T14 or T15 maps, sorry. I don't really die regularly almost at all. I've gone all the way up to level 90, which is pretty nice. And that's playing without Mind Over Matter. The reason that I have decided to play without this is with Mind Over Matter, your mana becomes kind of annoying. Without it, mana is literally a non-issue. And with it, you want to play Ether Flow, because otherwise, like, your mana is just literal hell. So playing without it, I gain a few skill points to go into more damage. Also, when you're playing with Mind Over Matter, because your mana drains so much, a lot of the time what will happen is I don't really feel like I'm at danger of dying unless I'm fighting like a boss. And when I'm fighting a boss, I want to just hold down right click and blast. And because of Mind Over Matter, you are incentivized to keep like at least 50% of your mana at all times, so that if for whatever reason you get really chunked hard, you still have a bit of cushion. So then you're kind of just doing this game of micromanaging your mana and not able to just go full out DPS. And in a lot of cases, more offense is better for your defense than sitting there just holding your mana. So I'm at a point where I don't necessarily think that I would recommend Mind Over Matter because it's kind of just annoying to play with. And I figured maybe it's just better to go into just straight up more energy shield and to rely entirely on that as your survivability rather than Mind Over Matter. You can make your energy shield way higher than mine is currently, and if I were to run into survivability issues, I would simply just spec a lot of energy shield that I currently don't have. I spec'd out of it to opt for more damage. Some ways that I opted for more damage, and something that I would almost universally recommend at this point, is Strike Twice. I didn't entirely understand how Shock worked previously, so I just was ignoring this and I was just straight up going for Exposure, which I knew was good damage-wise. This gives you almost the same value of Scouring Winds, which is pretty good. So Strike Twice, basically if you don't know how Shock works, you have a chance to shock enemies. Once they are shocked, they take increased damage. By default is 20%. This allows you to apply 2 shocks simultaneously. So basically on mobs that get shocked, it's kind of just a 20% damage increase. Spark is going to apply shock pretty regularly, or rather quickly, because of all your projectiles, and it has a pretty decent chance to because it does so much damage. And Orb of Storms also has a very high shock chance. So if you're fighting an elite or a boss, you're going to instantly apply 2 shocks to them. One thing that's very good about this is you can scale the magnitude of shock, basically just the amount of increased effective damage taken that the mobs take, with a couple nodes that are extremely low investment. Breaking Point is a 30% increase to the magnitude, and then Power Conduction is a 25% increase to the magnitude. So these are a 5-point investment in total, and they're going to scale your shock from a default value of 20, and then you multiply that by 1.5 to a default value of 30. So with 5 points, you're getting a 20% multiplicative damage increase as a result of using Strike Twice. My shock is at 31% for whatever reason you'll see on mobs. Yeah, actually, I don't know. It might just be like a rounding error or something. I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. Either way, getting a 31% damage increase as a result of using this and just having both of these on, I think is overall pretty good. And more power than Scouring Winds. Other Ascendancy Point stuff, like you just want Arcane Surge for mana and stuff, and cast speed. Heart of the Storm, I'm pretty sure is terrible. I've been playing around with it. I'm mainly using it for the Ellie res right here because this is capping me on my fire is overcapped and my cold is nearly capped. I thought I was capped with this, whatever. I'm mainly just using this for the res. I'm pretty sure this is terrible. Recoup takes 8 seconds, and this is only elemental damage, unless you're scaling Recoup in some capacity, which I'm unaware of how you would do so. At least I haven't seen anything for it. Maybe I'm dumb. If you could make this happen, like, I don't know, 500% faster, then maybe this would be good, and you could sacrifice some energy shield recharge rate in favor of Recoup, but it's only 40% of the damage that you would take, and it is only Ellie damage, not physical, so I think they should like rework this or something. I think this is like extremely weak. I kind of just have it on because I've been messing around with it. Otherwise, you'd want to go into Scouring Winds with Exposure. You can scale up the effect of Exposure. There's like nodes here to increase effect exposure, and here. Mathematically, not entirely sure that these are worth it because there's a lot of other nodes that are pretty good. You'll see that I went into these nodes right here. While this is additive damage, just these 4 nodes is 60% additive, and I have quite a lot of additive because in my gear, I have 52% on my focus and also a ton on my, one of my rings has This one has 23% lightning damage, and this is also 60% spell damage on my weapon. So I have more additive damage than you ordinarily would, somewhere in the range of like 400%. And even with as much additive as I have, a 60% additive increase is still 15% multiplicative more damage for just 4 points. Keep in mind that you're also not instantaneously applying exposure to all mobs that you fight, because that's only with Orb of Storms are you applying exposure via the lightning exposure here. The way I see the exposure nodes are they are similar in power to the shock ones, however they are not active as often when mapping. It is mainly just a bossing thing. So once I get a few more points, I will go into this one, but this one is too far away in my opinion. It doesn't have as good of stuff surrounding it for me to want to go into it. Otherwise, I've opted out of a little bit of survivability in favor of more damage. Mainly, I have swapped out of these energy shield nodes because I didn't feel like I needed them. I feel like my energy shield recharge rate is okay. But if I wanted more survivability, hey, I would just drop these cast speed nodes and this cast speed node, and I would just go into that, and I'd have a bit more survivability. Another thing I've been trying out is a mana on kill Sapphire. If you're playing Mind Over Matter, this is very good. You kill a few mobs and you recover a massive amount of your mana. So I thought that was pretty good. Without Mind Over Matter, I don't think this is necessary at all. I've kind of just been messing around with it, and I think it is pretty decent. That's the majority of the changes that I've made with this build. I found that pretty much depending on what you're doing and what you feel like, you can just swap stuff around. There's a lot of different ways that you can set this up. I've kind of just been messing around with like the pure damage variation of it. I also swapped out of these percentage energy shield nodes. So like if I lost some cast speed and maybe a little bit of damage, I could gain over 1,000 more energy shield if I went into all this percentage stuff. Overall though, I've quite liked playing the more glass cannon version of the build. Another thing is I've just been messing around with using a normal pair of gloves. Normal pair of gloves gives you a crap ton of energy shield, mana, and you can cap out your resistances a lot easier with that. You could also get gain mana per kill, which scales off of mana regen, which would be pretty good if you wanted to play Mind Over Matter. I think playing without Kotokos is almost grief entirely, but this will net you a little bit more boss damage. I've kind of just been messing around with it. Otherwise, I upgraded a couple pieces of my gear. Nothing crazy. There's still a lot of stuff that I want to improve. One thing I wanted to talk about real quick is a way to, while using Eldritch Battery, make yourself invincible if you really wanted to. So we have this Ghost Wraith robe here, which basically I just equipped it real quick just to see what would happen. And this is what happened. And keep in mind, there's a lot of energy shield nodes that I'm not spec'd into. And you can see that just by putting this on, my energy shield went up by 2,000, which is 2,400 rather, which is a factor of 50%. What this does is converting half of my life into energy shield. And it's interesting that it works even with Eldritch Battery on. That is probably not intended. But my normal life without Chaos Inoculation is about 1,500. So 50% of that is 700. And then all of that is getting scaled off of percentage increase to energy shield, which then gives you a crap ton of energy shield, basically based on life. So it gives you an additional way to scale your defenses if you wanted to with life. The obvious downside to this is that you lose mana. I lost about 700 mana, but keep in mind that this is not qualityed and this does not have runes in it. If I were to quality it, maybe get, I don't know if the energy shield roll could be higher, but if I were to quality it, put iron runes in it, and the energy shield would be higher, keep in mind that flat energy shield converts into mana via Eldritch Battery. So if I wanted to gain, like, the benefit of this, why would I ever use this? Basically, if you just wanted to be invincible at the loss of like a little bit of damage and then having to cap your resistances elsewhere, you could just put this on and super easily do that. One thing I want to quickly demonstrate is that because this gives you energy shield based off of life, I have almost no life on my gear. So quickly, let's see what happens if I just put a ring on with life, for example. A ring could roll, you can see that my ring has 140 mana here, is a T10. You get a similar value of life, probably on a high end, like 200 life on one ring. This ring is going to give me 40 life. Okay, look what happens to my energy shield. And keep in mind that I'm losing mana, and mana does convert into energy shield. As I take this off, I lose 130 or whatever. Look what happens if I just put on 40 life. It goes from 6,851. Sorry, that was the wrong ring. 6,851. This one is the ring I was using earlier. I was like sitting here figuring out why is my health not going up as much? It's because this one has strength on it. So strength gives you +2 life base. And also the int converts into mana, and also it has 19 mana on it. So effectively, 19 life. So effectively, this ring has 69 life on it versus this one only having 40. And you can see that from 69 life, I go from 6,851 energy shield to 6,938. And if you wanted to, you could get a ring with extremely high strength on it and max HP. And the same thing can be said for boots, belt, gloves, other ring, helmet, and I think focus. I'm not 100% sure about focus, but I know about helmet. You can see this helmet here has 79 life, and I'm even going to lose a base energy shield by putting this on. But if I put it on, my energy shield still went up by over 200 because this just has life on it. These boots right here have 93 life on them, and I lose a little bit of base energy shield by putting them on. I lose 40 energy shield. And the mana is better on these boots. So if I put them on, my energy shield goes up by nearly 300. So you can see that if you were to just plan around your gear a little bit, if you were to try to get like an equal amount of mana and HP on belt, helmet, maybe like nobody on this character is going to think about buying a ring with like high strength, high life, and mana, right? So maybe that is something that you could do. And if you fully invested into that, pretty sure you could easily get over 10,000 energy shield. Also because I am not spec'd into a lot of this percentage energy shield stuff that I could be spec'd into, which would drastically scale that. This definitely seems to be an oversight and probably unintended, but it is funny that I'm able to run around with 7,400 energy shield without being fully spec'd into it while I have Eldritch Battery on. One other thing that is food for thought is that if you get a perfect chest piece with plus 60 spirit on it, you can then run Cast on Shock. And because we are applying shock so regularly with Spark, and also if you use Orb of Storms, you can use Lightning Conduit, Cast on Shock, and then it just does a crap ton of damage, specifically against bosses. I'm pretty sure I've been trying to manually cast, but I just kill the bosses before I'm actually able to land it. But I'm pretty sure based on the base damage here, and with how much we're shocking, pretty sure this will hit up in the millions. I haven't had a boss with enough HP to actually fully test this on. Hopefully I do soon, but I do like the idea of getting a lot of shocks on an enemy and then hitting them with an absolute Giga Blast. But Cast on Shock kind of just automates that. The problem is getting a chest with 60 spirits and high energy shield and mana, or sorry, int and resistances is literally like 150 exalts or something like that. So not really realistic, but if at any point they nuke Everlasting Gaze, then I would simply take off Eldritch Battery. I would get a ring, an amulet with spirit, ranks 2 spell skills. I get a chest with like 30 spirit or so that I can do Cast on Shock, Lightning Conduit, get a little bit more damage that way, and that would help compensate, and then my energy shield would be double anyways. So the build is perfectly fine. Don't worry about this being a bug or abusing a bug or some crap. Anybody that says that is kind of dense, honestly. Another thing that I have done, which I kind of forgot to mention, is I did go out of my way to do the weapon set thing for conductivity. So I put all these nodes into a curse duration, curse effect down here. You can get a bunch of curse duration, and then you can also get some curse effect here and right here. This makes it to where your conductivity has currently minus 67% resistance on the mobs. So that is extremely good paired with lightning exposure. You blast bosses or any elite that is lightning res, you just delete their lightning res out of the game. That's it for the video. Hopefully you found it helpful or something like that. Pretty sure the high end of this build is probably going to do millions of DPS, and I'm kind of just messing around with stuff, but that's why I wanted to go like full damage just to see how much you can get away with. And I've quite liked the current setup. Let me know your thoughts down below. If you have any recommendations or suggestions, let me know. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. As a very quick, I'll just show my gear, just so you can see what I have, I suppose. I should have done this earlier, but whatever. I need to put a socket in this still. This has res on it, so I can get some better suffixes. My rings are pretty dog ass. The next thing I want to get is a new chest with like 200 more energy shield. I've been saving up for that. That'll probably cost like 100 exalt to get a really, really good one. So I'm saving up for that. How much exalt am I at right now? I farmed a good bit yesterday. I'm at 83. Okay, so I can probably get myself a new chest pretty soon. That's pretty hype. I quite like my boots. I bought these with 5 affixes on them, and they were missing a suffix, so I was like, okay, maybe I hit res, and then I tapped it, and I hit 40% lightning res, so I was really happy about that. The mana on this could be higher, but the energy shield is really high, and the movement speed is 30, so happy about that. Very high mana belt here, only 2 reses, but the cold is low. Kotokos, I'm considering buying a bunch of these and just valing them over and over again to try to hit double socket to help with my resistances. I don't know what else my Val could even hit, if it could hit something good up here. I have no idea how Vals and Corrupts work in this game, to be honest. I just know that I can get a socket, so that would be good, but these are like 7 to 8 Exalt each, so it's kind of annoying. And I don't have this quality either. I need to quality my rings, and I need to quality this a little bit more. Otherwise, everything else is qualityed, I think, that I can, yeah. That's pretty much it. I want to get a wand with 4 ranks and more mana on it, if possible, but I did corrupt spell damage on here, so hard to replace that. But the spell damage, if I have like 500% additive right now, so this is like, you know, not even like 5% increased damage or something like that. My rings are kind of ass, honestly. I want cast speed on both, but it's very expensive to get that, so I was just okay with, you know, a good bit of mana and Ellie res. If I get a replacement for this ring and I'm able to get double res, then I can swap out of this garbage thing in the skill tree here, because this sucks. But I like having the all res because my cold isn't capped without it. I don't know what I want to put in here. I'm considering an iron rune or just all res. I don't know yet. I'm kind of just waiting to buy more gear to see where my resistances land and to see if I want to fix it via the helmet. But these are like 7 Exalt or something like that, so yeah. Anyways, that's it for the video. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you listening to me yap.